Welcome everyone. We're at the end of our breakfast meeting here. This was the 5G technology. It's our annual transportation innovation. We know that 5G is going to be changing the world and how we get the delivery of our information. You know, it's become the Internet of Things, and so all the connectivity that goes on, and transportation is one of those things that will be connected through 5G. Today we have with us Joe Fuscuso. He spoke to us about the smart city side. Gary May talked to us about small cell solutions, and then David Babbitt here on my far left, preparing our communities. So gentlemen, thank you for spending a little time afterwards with us.
Okay.
So we got some great conversation going on after. You know, people are worried about how the impact this is going to have on our communities. One of the things that I found very interesting was the ownership of the cell towers themselves. And first, can you just kind of help us back up a little bit and tell us about, in the city of Philadelphia, what they're doing with their cell towers? Who owns those small cell towers?
Well, right now in the city of Philadelphia, what we see is AT&T and Verizon purchasing the small cell towers directly through consulting firms that are helping them deploy this with construction firms. So they're owning it directly.
So David, what are some of how do municipalities have to think through this?
Well, municipalities should adopt ordinances that regulate small cells, balancing a level of permissiveness with a certain level of regulation to limit where they go and how tall they are and what they look like and so forth, without actually interfering with the deployment of the service.
So Joe, in that conversation, somebody had mentioned, you know, how does 5G, you know, these cell towers get connected? And we're like, well, it's fiber. And you mentioned a firm that you're working with, or that you heard from, that's doing
microtrenching. Yeah, so again, it's just all of the companies that are developing technologies around the technology is kind of very interesting to me, right? So this company has a microtrenching technique where typically laying fiber, you may do 1,000 feet in a typical, if you're going to do a street deployment, below grade street deployment, 1,000 feet may take several days. They can do 1,000 feet in a couple hours with a microtrench. It's basically a blade, cuts in, installs, backfills, and seals all in one application. So these kind of technologies are popping up all over the place.
So Joe, you've been traveling around the country talking about smart cities and your role with the Smart Cities working group.
Right.
What are some communities that are similar to Chester County that are moving ahead with this work?
Certainly in the Research Triangle in North Carolina, they're probably way ahead of the curve. Fairfax County, Virginia, with that's kind of with the Amazon Ground Zero. They're out there in front. San Diego is out. So there's a lot of the real question, about smart cities and in Chester County, we've got 73 small municipalities, right? How does a small municipality become smart? Should the county take the lead in that process? And I think in other parts of the country, the counties are taking the lead, at least setting some ground rules for the municipalities to all try to help out the smaller municipalities.
So Gary, with your work, you're working with many different municipalities and having those conversations about the deployment of these small cells. What are some of the things that you could recommend to other municipalities that aren't even thinking about this?
I think the municipalities should look forward and determine what aesthetic they want for these small cell deployments in their municipalities. Think about maintenance costs and how they're going to share those maintenance costs or how they're going to deal with that, and also think about the long-term costs of maintaining those structures with the carrier.
So David, coming back to you about, is this stuff that we write into our municipal ordinances and our codes?
Yes, by and large, yes. Some of the design requirements can be in design guidelines, but they should be adopted along with the codes, yes.
So in this concept, how do we get our municipal leadership to start really thinking about this? I mean, I don't want it to be a scare tactic, and I don't want, we have great relationships with our carriers here in the Great Valley, but this is something I see that the municipality should be driving forward.
Well, municipalities should set the ground rules. The carriers themselves, or the people who are installing the small cells, have their own requirements, and in theory, they should be working with municipalities, but the municipalities need to spend some time early on in the process and set the ground rules first.
So Joe, you've done a lot of work here in the county at different levels with different association groups. Who in the county, I mean, I love for TMACC, but how do we build a coalition of people to talk about 5G for Chester County?
Yeah, I mean, again, as you said, there's the good thing about the county is we've got a number of really good, not TMACC. You got the chamber, you've got the Economic Development Council, and you got the commissioner's office itself. But there should be a thought process of at least at the macro level. Maybe you can set some high level ground rules, as David said, and then Westchester is going to be different than New London, right? Because they have different needs in terms of a historic downtown. Gary talked about that during the talk. The historic downtown versus very rural. There's going to be, but at least you could set some really higher level macro 50,000 foot ground rules that might be able to filter its way down to the municipalities. We want Chester County to be, it's always been progressive, we want it to be cutting edge, right? So why wouldn't we lead the charge? Again, like I said in my talk, you don't want to be the opposite of smart, so we should be a smart county.
So with that, I think that's a great conclusion, because it is all about, how do we set the business agenda for Chester County to continue the smart growth that we are seeing here in the county. If somebody want to reach out for your area of expertise, how does somebody reach you? Gary?
Just have to contact Signal Service, 610-429-8073.
Joe?
The best place for me is the Pinoni website, and I'm on there, and we have an innovation page that talks about a lot of this stuff, and you can find me on the website.
David?
And for me, it's the website, babbittplanning.com.
So great. So thank you, gentlemen, for being with us today. Hopefully, you, our audience, learned a little bit of a tidbit. Maybe you weren't with us today, but maybe a little addition if you were. Let's keep the conversation going. Thanks, guys.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you.